The minor league season is coming down to an end, so it's time to take a look at our minor league teams. We'll start things off here in DoubleA. Chattanooga Lookouts taking on the Tennessee Smokies. Take a look at the Lookouts lineup 1-2-9 on the day. And toeing the slab for Chattanooga will be the big right-hander recently acquired from the White Sox in Cade McClure. We'll start things off top half of the first as one of the Cubs prospects, Pinyango, lays down a leadoff bunt, and he's going to get on first base with his speed to start off the game. So he's on first. After that, it would be Franklin, who grounds into a 3-6-3 double play started by the first baseman Michael Triana. And then McClure would get out of the inning by inducing another ground ball as Jose Torres makes the throw from shortstop. We'll move things on to the top of the second now. Another 1-2-3 inning for McClure as he gets another ground ball to Torres at short, and it's still scoreless. So move things on, bottom half of the second. It's Triana, the first baseman, at the dish, and he's going to bloop one into left field. That lands in for a single, so he's on first base. After that is one of the two better hitters on this team in Alan Serta, smacking one into right field. So that's back-to-back singles. First and second, nobody out, but then one out as Matt McLean goes down swinging. After him, it would be Yvonne Johnson, the second baseman, who's going to ground into a 6-4-3 double play to end the inning. So 2 innings down, no runs have scored. Top of the third, it's Robel Garcia going down the right field line. Austin Hendrick gets to the ball and gets it into the cutoff man, or bypasses the cutoff man, actually. So single there, now one out in the inning. It's going to be Amaya, the catcher for the Smokies, blooping one over to right field. Hendrick gives it a dive, but it gets past him. Nobody's going to score, though, so it's second and third now with one out. McClure then works a pop fly from Pinyango into left field. Nobody tags up, though, as it's not deep enough, so second and third, 2 outs, and then McClure gets Franklin to strike out. So still, we are scoreless in this game as the big right-hander Cade McClure works out of the jam. Move things on top of the fourth as McClure had it working. A 1-2-3 inning. Jose Torres whips it across the diamond. That's the end of 4. Now on to 5. Another 1-2-3 inning. This time a ground ball to De La Cruz, moving over on the shift. Now we'll check things in with the bats of the Lookouts as Alan Serta gives one a blast at the center field, but it dies out right before the track. Nothing going for the Lookouts there. Move things now top of the 6th. 2 outs, fly ball to left field from Christian Franklin, caught by Matt McLean. Now onto the top of the 7th. How about another 1-2-3 inning for Cade McClure as Jose Torres makes another play at shortstop. Now onto the top of the 8th where things get a little bit interesting. It is Quiroz coming to the plate here for the Smokies as he's going to hit a ball over the head of Hendrick in right field. That is a lead-off double. So he's on second base. Then it's Levi Jordan who chops one over to second base. Johnson gets the quick out, but the runner does move up to third base. So one down, runner on third. Infield in, and Johnson throw to the plate. The tag slapped on by Matthew Nelson, the catcher out of Florida State, and it is still scoreless. So now 2 down, runner on first. A fly ball out to left center field. Jay Allen back to catch it with his blue and pink glove as he makes it for the 3rd out. So now top of the 9th inning, 2 outs, and McClure was still on, but he gives up a single here to Ball, and then after that would be Crook, who goes into right field. So back-to-back singles, and they would take McClure out of the game. He comes out, gives a tip of the cap to the crowd for his work on this day, and John O'Reilly, the mustachioed man from Rutgers University, enters for his 12th appearance of the season here in DoubleA. And he would proceed to work a pop fly into right field on the first pitch he throws. So bottom of the 9th inning now, Manuel Rodriguez came on for the Smokies, and he's going to give up a hit to Matthew Nelson as he smacks that one into right field for a base knock to lead off the inning. Then Michael Ciani came on to pinch run for him, so he's on first base with his speed. And then Jay Allen lays down a perfectly placed bunt down the first baseline, but they somehow get Ciani at second base, the lead runner. So now Allen at first with 1 out, and he's going to go and swipe second base to make up for it and get himself into scoring position. So Jay Allen on second, Elly De La Cruz at the plate hits a line drive off the temple of Manuel Rodriguez, and that was actually saving the winning run there. That would have walked it off if that got into center field, but instead Rodriguez takes the blow to his head, has to come out of the game, and they bring on the big right-hander in Dakota Mekkes for the 22nd time this season, and he's going to be facing Austin Hendrick here. It's strike him out and throw him out. Double play to end the ninth, and we are still scoreless through 9, so it's now onto the top of the 10 with the zombie runner on second base. And with 2 outs, it's going to be a pop fly to Allen in center and nothing going for the Smokies. So now it's time for the lookouts to try to score. Michael Triana, ground ball to second base. That will move up the runner Hendrick to third. And then it's Alan Cerda. Chopper at the shortstop. The diving play. They're not going to be able to get it. And the Chattanooga lookouts walk this one off in extras as they get the run in from third base. And 1-0 is your final in this ball game. A pitching duel between the Lookouts and the Smokies here at Majestic Greens Stadium, but the Lookouts do come out on top here at home. Now let's go over some stats of our AA hitters and pitchers and talk about some guys who we aren't going to be highlighting in prospect profiles, but we do want to, highlight a bit and go over some of these guys in our organization. So first one up in AA for the hitters is Alan Cerda, who has been one of the best bats in AA South this season. An 807 OPS, 16 home runs is tied for the league lead. He's got 25 doubles, 12 stolen bases, 125 hits, is actually second in all of AA South. Only a C potential, but he definitely could be a key bat in the big leagues for us, potentially down the line in a couple seasons. Contact is already almost into the 60s. He's got some pop in his bat too. Not the greatest fielder, but he can definitely hold his own in left field. If I had to predict something, I would say he's probably not a center fielder, so we'll probably change his primary position to left field for next season. He's even got some speed too with a 65 rating. And then we got Michael Triana over at first base, 842 OPS in AA this season. That was the highest in all of AA South. He had 16 home runs. He's the guy who was tied in the league lead with Cerda. Another C potential guy, but he is the only first baseman in the organization who really has any sort of MLB potential at first base behind Votto. That's aside from if we end up moving Stevenson to first base when Votto retires, but actual first baseman in the organization, it's pretty much Triana and then just a bunch of D potential guys who are probably going to be gone after this year anyways. But Triana could absolutely be a quality bat against right-handed pitching. He's a sinister left-hander, left-handed bat, right-handed throw. Definitely a guy worth keeping an eye on in the organization. And then, of course, we've also got Elly De La Cruz. Only a 718 OPS in AA this year, struggled a bit with the bat. I did edit his power rating a bit, like I said I would in his prospect profile. I'm hoping Season 2 just goes a bit better for him, and he will most likely be starting in AA next year, just so he has the best opportunity to really get off to a hot start and get his ratings up. Because that is what AA is for. It's for your guys who are top prospects. That's where some of the best talent is in the minor leagues. AAA tends to be more guys who are just sort of 4A guys. That's where you get the 29-year-old guy who just kind of, floating around in the minor leagues. They end up in AAA. But AA, that's where the top prospects go. We also had Michael De Leon in AA this year, one of the best hitters on our team, an OPS above 800, but sadly he is a D potential guy, so I doubt he is back for Season 2. Not the most interesting prospect around, and plus we have plenty of guys in the infield who we have to look at in our organization, so I doubt De Leon comes back for Season 2. We also had Matt McLean, who was another one of our top guys who struggled at the dish, only a 673 OPS. Him and De La Cruz will hopefully figure it out next season, though. And you may have noticed that in the video, Matt McLean was actually playing left field, and that's because at some point this year he got hurt. I think he had a shoulder thing or something. I forget what it was. I forget what the injury was, but he was out for a month. And while he was out, we called up this guy, Jose Torres from Class A, to be our shortstop. And I like him as a prospect so much that we just kept him at shortstop and had McLean play other places and take advantage of his positional versatility. So Torres Hasn't shown much with the bat yet. He's only had 144 ABs in AA though, so, not a huge sample size. And he's the exact type of player that we're looking for here in our organization. Potential to be a very solid contact hitter. Already a great defensive middle infielder. Has 60 speed too, so he's not some super slow guy. Wears stirrups, that's a big boost. 22 years old, see potential guy. 2-3 seasons down the line, he could be a serious dude in our organization. And then really the last guy we're going to highlight here among the hitters is Michael Ciani. Not a great year in AA for us, but he's very fast, so he is worth keeping an eye on. Led the AA South in steals with 16. Not a very high number. I guess not many players were swiping bags in AA this year, but, still young enough. He's 22, and paired with the speed, definitely a guy worth keeping an eye on, worth keeping around. Now, if we take a look at the pitchers at the AA level, we've got Brandon Williamson, who will be getting a prospect profile in Season 2, so we're not going to go too much into detail on him. Just know that he had a great year in AA. Definitely a guy we're hoping pans out. Second in ERA in AA South, third in innings pitched, and then he also led the league in strikeouts. So, very solid year in AA for Brandon Williamson. We also have Graham Ashcraft, who is put up a solid showing in AA, ERA in the FIP in the mid-3s, 24 years old, see potential. Doesn't have the most impressive ratings as of right now, but if he keeps performing, who knows what he could become. Still a guy who will be around for a few years in our organization at least. Christian Roa, a little bit of a misleading guy, ERA in the mid-5s, but his FIP was below 3, 10 K per 9, 3.75 walk per 9, so problem is, even though with the good ratings, or with the good showing, despite the ERA, he is 22 years old, but he is a D potential guy. So he could bump that up to a C. That's definitely something that can happen, and has happened many times in our franchises over the year when I do these. And I am going to keep him around next season since he's still young, but if he's going to be anything more than just depth in the organization, he needs to play well enough to jump that potential up to a C. And then just some quick notes on guys. We've got Logan Allen down in AA. He was acquired at the deadline in the Cleveland trade. He will also be getting a prospect profile in Season 2. Was great in only 65 and a third innings pitched in AA, a sub-3 ERA and FIP. We also have Chase Petty, who is another guy who will be getting a prospect profile at some point. It's just he is a bit farther away from the major leagues than our other guys, so he's not a priority right this second to get a prospect profile. Still 18 years old, so he was in Class A up until very recently. He's only pitched 13 innings in AA. And then the same sort of thing with Alec Willis. We just got him from St. Louis at the deadline. Also barely pitched in AA, only 3 1/3, so I mean, you can't judge anything based on 3 1/3 innings. Now we'll take a look at the AAA team, the Louisville Bats here, as they're playing host to the Nashville Sounds, the Brewers AAA affiliate. And on the hill for the Bats is the veteran right-hander in Zach Godley, the former Arizona Diamondback, making his 27th start of the season here in AAA. And we'll start things off top half of the third inning as Zamora hits a line drive and Bauer says, "Gimme that," goes up and grabs it for the first out of the inning. Then it's going to be a chopper back to Godley. He makes the play for the second out of the inning. And then it would be Pablo Arraez, one of the better bats in AAA this season, grounding out to shortstop, and a fire across the diamond from Kyle Farmer to complete the 1-2-3 inning. Now onto the bottom half of the frame, it's Clay Duncan at the dish, and he's going to get a pitch in the back. So he takes first base, and then he proceeds to swipe second with his fleet feet. So he's in a scoring position. Chucky Robinson at the dish goes down swinging. So Duncan still at second base with one out. It's TJ Friedl now. He tries to check his swing, but cannot hold up. So 2 down, runner still on second. It is Caraquetto, and he's going to pop one up into center field. So nobody's going to be able to drive in Duncan, and it's still a scoreless game. Top half of the fourth now, Jonathan Singleton, the former Astros farmhand, also Phillies farmhand top prospect, takes first base on the walk, and then it would be a single by Keston Hiura as it's back-to-back base runners here with nobody out for the Sounds. And then it would be a line drive into the left center field gap by the former Colorado Rockies big bat and David Dahl. That's going to drive in 2 runs, and the Nashville Sounds take a 2-0 lead here in the fourth inning. And then it would be Straining 2 runners on first and second here for the Sounds, as Godley would get a pop fly into left center as it's put away by Senzel to get out of the inning. So now bottom half of the frame, it's Caraquetto at the dish, and he's going to draw himself a base. He's going to get himself on base because he gets hit by a pitch. So he's on first, and then it would be a pop fly from Senzel. Caraquetto does not tag up, obviously, but then Jake Bauers absolutely pisses on this ball, hits it a long way to right field, and it ties the game with one swing of the bat. 2-2 is your score, and the Bats fell in love with the long balls in the next inning. Chucky Robinson, not known for his power, but he gets a good pitch to hit, and he gets that one just over the fence in left field, and the Bats use their bats to go up 3-2 here in this ball game. Move things on to the top of the 6th. It's a 1-2-3 inning from Godley as Clay Duncan makes the quick little throw there to first base. And then to the top of the 7th, another scoreless frame for Godley as he would get a 4-6-3 double play worked on the ground ball by Corey Ray. The Sounds then brought on Luke Barker in the bottom of the 7th inning, and with Chucky Robinson at the dish, he's going to go into left field, bloop it in front of the left fielder for a base knock here with 2 outs to keep the inning alive. Then it would be TJ Friedl at the dish, ball in the dirt. Robinson uses his fleet feet to get into second base, get himself into scoring position, and then Friedl would be able to knock him in. That's going to score Robinson from second. Friedl tries to go into second himself, but instead he's thrown out. But the Bats do extend their lead 4-2. They would take that lead into the 9th inning where Art Warren comes on and works a 1-2-3 inning ended by a ground ball to third base, a throw across the diamond, and the Louisville Bats win this game over the Nashville Sounds by a score of 4-2 in a matchup between 2 AAA affiliates of NL Central foes. And now let's dive into some stats on some of our AAA players here. First up on the hitting side of things is Ronny Dawson, who was one of our best bats in AAA this year. One of the best bats on the Bats. 798 OPS, second best OBP in the league. Very solid bat for us. Dawson is a deep potential, though, 26 years old, but even with that potential, I still think he's an interesting player that we might keep around for at least one more season because he has a solid bat. He boosted his contact versus left-handed pitching by 7 points this season. He's solid in a corner outfield spot. Definitely not a center fielder, but, he could be a left fielder, right fielder type guy. Not the fastest player, but can absolutely swipe a few bags. He's got some decent speed. He even stole 15 bags in AAA this season. He's also from Ohio and grew up a Reds fan, so that's definitely a cool thing for a guy to grow up and play for the team he grew up rooting for. Then another outfielder on the list, we've got TJ Friedl. Not a great year at the plate, lots of strikeouts for a speed guy, but surely someone to keep around in the organization. He's already got a good bat against right-handed pitching, decent plate skills too with a decent vision and 62 discipline. Solid defender, already in the mid to high 60s for fielding and reaction. A little bit of a noodle arm though, but he is a solid defender nonetheless. He's a base stealing threat though. That is probably his main skill, is that he's got 74 speed, 66 steal, swiped 18 bags in AAA this season. And then there's Jake Bauers, who is a guy who just really hasn't ever figured it out in the big leagues, but he's always had potential. He's always been a guy that people thought could be a very good bat. He's a lefty-lefty guy. He was with the Rays, didn't really hit, so they traded him to Cleveland in the Yandy Diaz deal. Didn't hit in Cleveland either, so they DFA'd him and traded him to Seattle. And then he didn't hit there either, so now he's with the Reds on a minor league deal. And guess what? He didn't hit in AAA this year either, but despite that, I still kind of like him to keep him around for at least one more year in the organization. Like when I was going over the AA players, I said that Michael Triana is the only guy in the organization that really has MLB potential to play first base. Jake Bauers is probably the number 2 first baseman in the entire organization for us, even though he's listed at left field. Definitely could play some first base too as a lefty-lefty guy. And despite him not hitting in AAA this year, he's just an interesting player. He's got some good ratings, he's got solid defense, incredible 83 plate discipline, got some pop in his bat. So definitely a guy that I might look to keep around for at least one more season in AAA. And then another guy in AAA among the bats is Nick Senzel, who was awful in the big league, so we sent him down to AAA Louisville to work on some stuff while playing every day rather than, just barely playing on the bench in the big leagues. And he's actually been really solid in AAA, a 792 OPS in 228 ABs. Now keep in mind, these AAA and AA numbers are not official because there are a few more games. There's only maybe a series or so left for each season, so they're not the official numbers at the end of the season, but they're not going to change too much from now to the end of the year. But Senzel, like I said, been solid. His ratings have been improving across the board. His bat against left-handed pitching looks pretty good. We'll have to see what his role looks like in Season 2 for us. But as far as Kyle Farmer goes, he's another guy who we sent down to AAA because he was just bad in the big leagues. And the difference between him and Senzel is that Senzel, I actually want to be good and a part of our team, while Farmer, I want him gone. I don't want him in the organization. He's too old, does not fit the timeline. I don't like him as a player. I don't like guys who can only hit against lefties and are just complete liabilities against righties. So because of that, I might try to trade him for some depth relievers or something in the offseason. He was solid in AAA, just hasn't been good in the bigs. I don't want him on the team. Then we've also got Chucky Robinson, who is one of the coolest dudes in the organization, in my opinion. His name is Chucky Robinson, first of all, just a super throwback cool name. He's even got some fleet feet as a catcher. His speed is in the 60s. Hits with no batting gloves, which is such an alpha move to do, especially nowadays. And then he wears rec specs, too. Just unfortunately, he's a late 20s guy with deep potential, and his ratings are already going down because of that. So despite me thinking that he's super cool, I doubt he sticks around the organization, and if I do, he's just a guy who we have filling in and is never really going to be looked at to be anything more than that. But a deep potential guy who we are keeping around as organizational depth who could possibly end up in the big league someday is Clay Duncan. He's been very solid in AAA for us. 828 OPS, only 159 ABs though, but still pretty solid. Despite being a deep potential guy, we do like him to stick around because he's got that high 80s speed, and he's a guy who could come up and play some second base for us in the bigs if we really need that. We've also got Isaiah Gilliam, who is in AAA currently, and as you can see, did not perform very well in AAA, but he was actually on fire in AA. He had a high 800s, almost 900s OPS in AA, and we actually called him up to AAA to open up more spots in the AA outfield because we have so much good outfield talent at the AA level. And while he was in AA, he was actually so good that he bumped his potential from a D to a C. I did not do that in the ratings. That was him just purely being a beast in AA and bumping up his potential. He's 25 years old, has good contact and good power combo with his bat, good plate skills, got some wheels, serviceable on one of the corner outfield spots. Definitely a guy we'll be keeping our eye on in Season 2, and if he starts hitting in AAA, he could be a guy that we see in the big leagues next season. But now jumping over to the pitching side of things on AA, we've got Zach Godley, who was the starter in the video. Very solid in AAA this year. Solid a few years in Arizona in the big leagues a few years ago, but in 2019 wasn't so hot, got DFA'd, and since then he's been on a laundry list of teams. It's pretty much just been a never-ending cycle of just signing a minor league deal or getting a shot in the bigs, being there for a month at most, and then getting DFA'd because he's not that good, and then just a never-ending cycle of that. It was Boston's had him. I think Milwaukee's had him. Seattle might have had him. It's literally been 5 or 6 teams since 2019. But with that being said, I do like him quite a bit. I like his ratings. I like his pitch repertoire. I like that he's still a C potential. He could be a guy who, even if he doesn't get starts for us in the big leagues next year, he could be a guy who right out of the gates is in our bullpen to start the year next season. Brandon Bailey is another guy we have in AAA, ERA and FIP in the mid-3s. He split time between the rotation and the pen for us, and I like his 97 break rating a lot. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. He could be sticking around for another year. We'll have to see how things shake up in the offseason, though. But Ben Lively, he will 100% not be around for Season 2. Had a solid year in AAA, but he's 30 years old and a D potential, so no point in keeping him around. Probably the same deal with these next two guys as well. There's Vladimir Gutierrez, who was decent at best in AAA, bad in the big leagues, deep potential. I personally think he's got a cool look going for him. He's a high Sox guy, got like an over-the-head sort of wind-up, old-school sort of wind-up, has tattoos everywhere. Just looks like a cool vibe sort of pitcher, but, definitely not performing well for us. Raver San Martin, he actually figured things out when we moved into the bullpen in AAA, and he was actually pretty solid in AAA for us. Unfortunately, he is also a deep potential guy who is losing ratings as well, so he's probably not going to stick around either. I do like that he's like a heavy sinker sort of slider guy, but I just doubt he's back for season 2. A deep potential guy who we are possibly going to consider bringing back for some relief depth is Dari Moretta. Despite being a deep potential, he was solid in AAA, so solid that he could stick around as depth, but we will see how the offseason shakes it out. And then a couple other guys, more D guys, Yondelgustave, who we claimed off waivers from the Brewers, has not been great in AAA. His numbers aren't too bad, but he was way too wild for my liking. His K per 9 was like an 8, and his walks per 9 was like a 7. So definitely not great there. Way too wild. He's not going to be back for season 2. And then we've also got Art Warren, who's another deep potential guy who probably won't be back. He's from Ohio, just like Ronny Dawson is, but, not going to be a guy who we stick around with. Just really not that interesting to me. I think he's got decent, hit and K per 9 and, velocity and break ratings, but, he's decent in AAA. He was bad in the bigs. Nothing really too special about him. I'm sure we could find more interesting guys in the offseason. So with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for the first edition of the minor league update here on MLB The Show 22 in the Cincinnati Reds franchise. For those of you who are unaware, this is something I do. I used to do it twice per season, every season in these franchises, but I'm starting to think that it's probably better off that I just do one per season, because 2 is probably a bit overkill. But with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I am saying, Dana White, stop holding events at the UFC Apex.